And we are back despite the fact that I had a terrible night out last night. Called myself going to social nightclub in Midtown Sacramento like I was finna pull something. No, I'm heartbroken right now since my little trip to Brazil. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? Welcome to the West Coast Greatest Voice Broadcast. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? Shout out to my YouTube family. Shout out to my TikTok family. Shout out to my Facebook family. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? Welcome to the live. So first off, before we get into talking about if Newsom ruined our state, if, dare I say, London Breed is the sole reason why San Francisco has fallen into shambles, although she's not mayor anymore. Before we get into the factors, wonder if EBKJ will see the light of day again, I want to do some quick shout outs. Number one, I want to say shout out to the New Life Ministry Church in Lodi, in South Central Lodi, or La Iglesia de Nueva Vida Ministerios. Yo tengo un amigo allá que está empezando. I got a homie out there, shout out to my brother Ephraim. He's one of the new ministers there, one of the new ministers, preachers, pastors in training. He has been called, he has been anointed to give the word to y'all. I want to say much love to my young man out there, man. I'm happy to see you out there doing your thing, brother. Much love. Shout out to y'all. Yeah, I would just want to start off on a little religious note, It is Sunday, so I should take that into account, right? Second thing I want to say also, too, is, God did a post talking about this. To all the agricultural workers, be you migrant or not migrant, the cherry pickers, the field workers, the ranch hands, the livestock technicians, the dairy workers, all of y'all who make up, I want to say thank y'all to all y'all. In this post that I put, I was talking specifically to those who stay in my town, but I want to say much love to all y'all. Be all the workers in Stockton, be all the ones in Modesto, because let me tell y'all something, it was 189,000 degrees outside today and yesterday. I don't know how y'all is out there working, picking the cherry, la cherry. Well, I don't even know what's in season right now. For y'all to be out there and, hey, listen, making less sometimes than $16 an hour doing it. Y'all brave. Y'all brave. So let's just get into the conversation. Hop right into it. Let me turn on the chat too, because I want to see what y'all saying in the chat too. Shout out to those of y'all who might chat. Let me see if I got any comments yet. No comments yet. We'll just keep the broadcast going. Is California screwed? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the state of our wonderful place. So this man right here, some of y'all are familiar with. This man is Gavin Newsom. He is the governor of our state, right? It's always fascinating for me to see how popular he is outside of the state of California, if that makes sense. It's so fascinating to me that when I see like the Shade Room is a very big Instagram page for just all news that has to do with anything black. When they post him, seeing all the people in the comments saying he's brave for standing up against Trump and et cetera, and mind you, I'm damn sure not a fan of Trump, but I'm sure not a fan of him. It has been a very common talking point to not only criticize him, but as well criticize the state of affairs in our lovely state of California. A lot of people have said that Newsom has ruined California. A lot of people also said that California is a hellhole. A lot of people have also said that California is one of the worst goddamn places to stay at. And I have to be fair to that and say that when COVID hit, and when we were in the pandemic time, and I started seeing all the small businesses suffer because of closure and et cetera, some of Newsom's policies, even though he was still having his little weekly, every once in a while meetings at the goddamn wineries and stuff, I was critical too of him. And I have been one of the people who have complained about the state of affairs in California. I've complained about the price of living. I've complained about Prop 48. I've complained about all these goddamn tweakers and homeless people you have running around here. And to be fair to him, that's not to say that all of that is the fault of Gavin Newsom. That just doesn't make any sense. And all of that coming together has painted a picture of California as being this. When I watch Fox News, when I watch Tucker Carlson, when I watch any of them Tucker Carlson and Fox News no more, it's always so funny seeing them criticize California and say it's the worst state in the country, right? I'm going to show y'all a tweet I saw that Newsom put up. So a representative, Senator Sarah Huckabee Sanders, no relation to Bernie Sanders, obviously, she had commented saying that what's happening in California would never happen in Arkansas because we value order over chaos. She said what's happening, and I forgot what particular thing she was referring to because this tweet is from some weeks ago, right? And Newsom retweeted that, and he said, your homicide rate is literally double California's. Let me repeat that because some of y'all are slow. He said, your homicide rate in the state of Arkansas, where this young lady is from, is literally double that of California's. What are y'all talking about? What are you talking about? I thought about that. I took that into account. I actually started researching a little bit, show y'all a little list I found of the cities with the highest murder rates and homicide rates. Now, granted, the murder rate to a certain degree, and I forgot what statistic, some statistic systems, it looks a lot different for the murder rate versus the homicide rate. We ain't nowhere even in the damn near top 10. District of Columbia, DC, which Trump is talking about sending the National Guard to go fuck with them too. Louisiana, I know for a fact is low. They got a really high murder rate and homicide rate. I got family out there. Shout out to my family in the boot. New Mexico, Alabama. I know Alabama well. I used to live in Alabama, etc., etc. Bringing this up because it does bring a question of, I see all of these right-wing, extreme right-wing platforms dissing California, shaming it, saying it's trash, saying it's this, saying it's gang infested, saying it's overran by homeless people, saying it's all this shit. And half of them be coming from states where they ain't got their own shit together. Half of them be coming from states where you got the goddamn, half of them really don't have no room to talk, bro. If we having a real conversation, bro. Like, I was really wondering, why don't we ever talk about the poverty rate and the homicide rate in Louisiana? Why don't we ever talk about that? Why don't we ever talk about the poverty rate? I watched those hood vlogs in Mississippi. I watched the hood vlogs of Jackson. I watched an interview that y'all did with that one white dude who was like the first white vice lord there or something like that. Why is that never a conversation? When he responded to this woman's post saying that, bro, you're in Arkansas talking shit about California and y'all homicide rate is literally double ours. This is before we get into a conversation about the poverty rate. And granted, when we get into a conversation about the poverty rate, to be fair to them, it is Arkansas. Like, they don't generate nowhere near as much income as we do when we talk about poverty. But if we're talking about just homicide, because a lot of the criticism to California is the level of safety, lack of safety, of the lack of safety, the people, the homeless, and all that other stuff. But it's not like, bro, I used to stay in Alabama, bro. I stayed in Montgomery, Alabama. Proud former resident of Montgomery. Let me tell you, when I was there, bro, it was bad, bro. Growing up out there, bro, Montgomery was always bad. Birmingham was always bad. When you go to Louisiana, some of the worst poverty that you can see in the Western Hemisphere is in that state. When I made that video a long time ago talking to y'all about how in Hurricane Katrina, you had a lot of the dudes who came from New Orleans, got forced out of New Orleans as they call them refugees, but they went to Houston, Atlanta, etc., and the crime rates went up, and etc. It shouldn't shock you that the people from the poorest fucking region in our country went to other places and crime rates went up. It shouldn't shock you. New Orleans has had one of the highest homicide rates in this country for quite some time. When I say highest, I'm talking about in the top 6 list. They ain't never missed a spot. They ain't never missed a goddamn meeting of the worst cities. They have always been pretty high on the list. So when you're having that conversation, it kind of is a very, very, I'll say, it kind of is a very hypocritical thing to be from other states. And shout out to those of y'all who are leaving comments. I'm going to respond to y'all comments in 1 second. But it is a very hypocritical thing to say you guys are from the worst, most dangerous state in the world, but then you want to talk about, not in the world, in our country, one of the most unstable states in our country, we want to talk about California. Now, shout out to y'all. Shout out to my man Ian Dawson. What's up, my boy? Shout out to my man. He commented and said, my experience is we are taught lies about other states when you come from California. Let me repeat that comment again because I want to just kind of repeat that. He said, my experience, we are taught lies about other states when you come from California. So to that, I'm going to say this. I lived in Alabama. I lived in Georgia. I do think the picture that's painted about the South to us is them being a bunch of dirty, racist hicks that hate blacks, they do etc., etc. They love guns and whoopty whoop. And as a former resident of Alabama, that picture ain't that far off. It's not that far off, but like, I'm joking. But all jokes aside, let's talk about it. But it goes both ways. Because when you go to certain parts of Texas, when you go to certain parts of Louisiana, the picture that's painted of California to people there is where all these liberal, just blossoming people who love Kamala Harris and majored in flower picking and like we're all vegan. So it goes both ways, bro. You can't. It does go both ways in that regard. I think it's up to us as people to understand that when you watch Fox News, when you watch MSNBC, when you watch these news pundits who all getting paid probably around the same that you and me are getting paid outside of the more higher paying ones, they do have a certain narrative to push that favors them, if that makes sense. They do have a certain narrative to push. So it does favor them to push the narrative that all Californians are just Democratic, liberal people who hate anything Republican. Where if you go to Modesto, if you go to Placerville, I take it a step further. Even if you go to Vallejo, there are strong. You could make an argument that the majority of the actual land area of California is Republican. It's just that the more higher, densely populated cities, metropolitan areas are Democratic. Shout out to my man Ian. That boy actually is a really, really famous producer out here in the Bay. Shout out to him. Shout out to my man Mr. Monterello, who commented and said, often people who don't live in California only consider LA and San Francisco. I'm going to repeat that comment one more time. He said, often people who do not live in California only consider LA and San Francisco. that is true, and it is an important point. There is a important point to make. Any state you go to, there's going to be a difference in between the rural areas and the urban areas. There's always going to be that difference. That's not something you can avoid. There was a woman, or one of my posts I had did on one of the videos I did talking about the same topic. And it was a woman who moved to California from Missouri. Sorry, she moved from California to Missouri. And she moved to rural Missouri. And she was saying, actually I'll leave that comment up because it goes to what I'm saying. But she was saying, where I live in rural Missouri, it's so clean. The people are so nice, etc., etc. They have clean running water. I feel safe here and all this other stuff, right? And much respect to her because she's a nice woman. But I had to bring up to her, you do know you live in Missouri, right? There is a big difference in between rural goddamn Caruthersville, Missouri, and Kansas City, KC Mo. There is a difference in between St. Louis, Missouri, and rural Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri, much like New Orleans, Louisiana, has always been in the top 5 most dangerous cities in our goddamn country, bro. Always. St. Louis, Missouri, I want to say has it's in the top 4 highest capitals in our country. Dead ass. So when you go there, it was kind of like this one couple I met a while ago, right? They were from, they're from Lodi. No, they're from Lockford. Shout out to Lockford, shout out to 209, shout out to my Lockford boys. And they were saying, yeah, because I told them I lived in Alabama. So they said, oh yeah, we used to live in Alabama too. We went out there, and I forgot what region they were at, but they were telling me it was so nice and so peaceful. People were so much more friendly and cool, and it just feels so much more safer. I don't feel safe in California. I don't feel safe here. And I had to tell them, nigga, I used to live in Bama. Bama's rough. What part of Bama was you living at that you felt so much safer walking the I promise your ass to feel safer walking the streets of Stockton and walking the streets of Birmingham. Birmingham on some other type of shit. So when you want to have that conversation, just know it's a little bit different out there. So the disparities in between the rural areas and in the urban areas, that's just a normal thing. You can't avoid that. Let me read some of you guys' comments. Shout out, I'm getting a lot of comments right now. Okay. Shout out to my man Ian. He commented and said, living in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, I have met the most genuine people ever. Way more diverse than the Bay Area, in my opinion. Fort Worth, when you go to Dallas and Fort Worth area, a lot of people do not know that is a very diverse area. You see a lot of East Indians out there. Shout out to the Indians, Pakistanis, etc., etc. And I do think what a lot of people don't know about Texas as a whole, Northern Texas is way more segregated is a strong word. We'll say way more white than Fort Worth and Houston. You gotta remember those are metropolitan areas. We don't live in this era now. People forget this ain't the 1950s no more. This ain't that era where if you go to most metropolitan areas in the South, they're just gonna be black and white. It's not like that. Like Texas is still Texas. Texas is almost like their own. It's the same thing when you go to Houston, bro. When you go to Houston, a lot of people don't know. When you go to Houston, there is hella Asians in Houston. I mean hella. They even got their own gangs out there, and they even got their own, and they push a hard line. Them goddamn Vietnamese gangs in Houston, you know, they push a hard line. So, just being for real. Shout out to my man Ian. He said, my neighborhood, I think he's following up with that comment. He said, my neighborhood is mixed with Africans, Indians, Koreans, Mexicans, East Europeans, and regular whites and black. That don't shock me. About there. Shout out to my man Mo. He commented and said, the ultra liberal crowd is probably centered around San Francisco and LA. Exactly. You're right. You responded to my earlier point about that. Shout out to my man who commented and said, Ian said, when people who are here from different countries fly America flag more proudly than where you come from in California, it makes you rethink a lot of things. Let's talk about that topic specifically. I'm gonna repeat that comment again. So my brother here said, when people who are from different countries fly American flags more proudly than where you come from in California, it makes you rethink a lot of things. So I display my flag proudly. I display my flag proudly. Y'all know my feelings about patriotism. I just came back from Brazil last week. Muito amor. Para todo brasileiro, se há brasileiro me olhando agora, fica com vontade. I am, after spending 2.5 weeks in Brazil, I passed time in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. I came back here more appreciative of basic level shit that we have here. Like, I love that we just have napkins here. The quality of our toilet paper is far more better here than there. But they food shitting on our food. I will say that. Bringing this up because I am appreciative of America, but I'd be lying to you if I told you I was proud of all of the things that being American entails. When you start coming to the black population, the black side of things, there has been that sentiment for a large portion of the black community where it's like we feel like we can't partake in patriotism so much because of the history of our involuntary occupation in this country. To me, I still say I'm proud. I'll still say I'm American. I'll display my flag because the way I look at it is there aren't that many countries in the world that have the history that we have here and arrive to where we're at in modern day times, if that makes sense. It's a lot of countries, a lot of places you go to where, you know, the working class, the slave class that you go there, they've been the working class and slave class for hundreds of years. There's a lot of places you go to where the oppressed have been the oppressed and shall remain the oppressed for years. When you go to China, they're still putting motherfuckers in internment camps in China. We're always talking about Israel and Palestine. Just know they're doing modern day genocide in Israel right now. So I take pride in the fact that as Americans, we can at least hope that we can at least be for sure that that's not going to happen. I think the way I look at being American, I look at it almost as like a family thing, where it's like we have some in-house issues we need to fix. 100%. As American, we have some in-house issues that we need to fix. But before, to anybody who says F America, to anybody who says F our country, I will say, if you want to, you can take a $800 plane ticket to go somewhere else. I can tell you, shit gets a lot worse in other places. So, just being honest with you. Shout out to my man. I even commented and said, I spent some time in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and recently, and you can definitely see the economic difference and divide. There's just nothing out there. Yeah. And that's not the shit on Alabama, because I got a lot of love for Alabama. I technically grew up in Alabama to a certain extent. But when I see it such a popular talking point on the side of the right to say that California is this fucking shithole, worst place on the planet, it's like, hey, bro, y'all ain't got that much room to talk now. And mind you, the man who commented, he talking about Tuscaloosa. Nigga, Tuscaloosa is not even as bad as some other cities in Alabama. So, it goes both ways. I think that at the end of the day, my mentality is, if you want to ask my personal opinion about California, let me tell you what I think. We can have this conversation. Let me tell you what I think personally. We do have some things that need to change here. We do have some policies here that need to change. I'm not a fan of Newsom. I can actually put up that picture of Newsom, so we're talking about it right now. I'm not the biggest fan of Newsom. I'm not a fan of Newsom. Because I personally, to me, for a long time, I felt like he just didn't stand for anything. I didn't like his stance on Prop 48. I didn't like the stance he took last year when he found out how popular it was for Prop 38 to go into effect. Prop 38 was to cancel Prop 48. Prop 36 was to cancel Prop 48. So not cancel it, but essentially combat some of it, so that way we can actually start having some convictions and put these motherfuckers in jail who are driving from Mervyn's to Home Depot to Best Buy just stealing shit and feeling comfortable to walk back the street in 3 days. Not even 3 days sometimes. Sometimes they get out with a misdemeanor ticket. But I only can criticize him so much now because when I see how full of shit Ted Cruz is, who I did used to like, when I see how full of shit that Trump is, who I've always said when it comes to Trump, I've told y'all before, the root idea of what he be talking about, I agree with. I just completely disagree with how he goes about it. I look at things differently. His stance that he's taking against ICE, his stance that he's taking against these mass deportations, I look at it a little bit as virtue signaling, but at the same time, because reality is, when Obama was here, like I said, Obama deported a lot of illegals. But I think the issue we have is just the way that Trump's going. People don't understand that when I say that, the way he's going about it, that's a very important part of the equation. How you go about things. It's a very important part of the equation. It's the difference in between the cop that pulls your black ass over. And he's like, hey man, hey listen, we'll give you respect, brother. Just let me see you, etc. You've been drinking. Versus the one that pulls you over, gets all in your face, talking shit to you, cussing you in your face. I've had both of those experiences. Makes a world of a difference. Can make a world of a difference of your personal view of law enforcement. So that's what we mean when we say that. Let me read some of y'all comments that we got here. Let me see. We get a lot of comments, man. Shout out to my man. Oh, what's up, my boy Sean? Shout out to my man. He commented and said, Americans are not a monolith. There are Americans who live and breathe country pride. And there are Americans who appreciate being Americans, but the corruptions and lies. He also commented and said, and there are Americans who are indifferent and say F America. So, we are not a monolith country. We are not. This is a land of different varying views, you know. And I want to also say this too. I'm glad you put that up. I want us to stop equating I want us to stop equating extreme neoconservative racism with patriotism, if that makes sense. There are a lot of people who are trying to hide racism under the cloth of patriotism, and I don't like that. I don't like that. You can be proud to be from this country. You can be proud to be a native here. You can be proud to say that your family slaved and labored and toiled in these lands, and at the same time not be racist. Because reality is, this country is great because the people who came here to make it great. I live in California right now. I live in the valley. I live in a country part, and I can tell you, it's people from all different lands. I live in the area where you have a lot of dairy farmers. And a lot of the dairy farmers came here from Portugal. A lot of people from the Azores, muito português. And bringing that up to status, I think those people, much like them, much like the Mexicans, much like the blacks, we make this country what it is. So you can 100% be proud to be American at the same time not be racist. You know, hey, listen. Bill Clinton said it best in the 1990s. Bill Clinton said it best. We are a nation of immigrants, but we also are a nation of laws. I liked his stance on that. That's my personal stance when it comes to that. I just don't like the way when you're doing it, how Trump's doing it, when you're talking about build the wall, deport them all. And when we start having a conversation about migrant workers and et cetera, we'll touch on that a little bit later. But let's go to it. We get some good comments. I appreciate y'all. Shout out to all y'all who are leaving comments. Please leave as many comments as y'all want to. I appreciate that. Like, share, leave comments, like, and share. I appreciate all that. I love that. Shout out to Ava. She commented and said, Trump and the Epstein situation is what really made me turn my back on him. And a lot of people are feeling that way now, at least from what I've seen online. That Epstein situation, you know why I feel like that pissed off a lot of people? Is because, number one, Trump has always presented himself as the person who's working against the system, who's not with the system. He's going to drain the swamp. He's not in bed with the rich. He's not in bed with the RINOs, with the rich Republicans. When, in all reality, clearly he's in bed with them. Clearly they all sleep in the same bed, probably have bunk beds together. That's an obvious thing, right? If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even have an issue with them. Because quiet as it's kept, it's very obvious that there were Democrats as well as Republicans who were cool with Epstein, who were on the islands of Epstein, who were kicking it with him, who were all in the pictures, who were probably us too. It's very obvious. Same reason why Biden didn't go hard on Epstein. Same reason why Obama ain't never said nothing about it. But bringing up Obama was random. Bringing that up to say this, where Trump messes up is because if you're going to present yourself as a person who's for the people. Hey, listen, man, I told y'all a long time ago. Let me just say this about Trump. When Trump first started his campaign for 2024, Trump started in the goddamn county where my grandmother was born at, in Pickens County, South Carolina. Shout out to all y'all out there in South Carolina. I got love for y'all, but I'm about to say some disrespectful shit. And when he got on there and started talking to them, and them po-ass people in that goddamn region, them po-ass people saw a leader in him, saw hope for survival. How in the fuck did you think this rich man from New York, who ain't never seen a po day in his life, he ain't never had to eat ramen noodles 2 or 3 days in a row, he ain't never had to eat can of corn as a staple, how in the fuck did you look at him and think he gave a fuck about y'all? I'm not talking shit because I love y'all. We share the same bloodline, so I fuck with South Carolina. Do you get what I'm saying? This goes into a conversation about why I'm so critical of the Democratic Party now. Why I'm so critical of the Democratic Party now. Because anytime you come to a country where the low working class poor people feel like that the damn Republicans care more about you than the Democrats, it's something wrong. It's something wrong with that. Y'all don't see nothing wrong with that? With them damn people in Ohio who don't even live in Youngstown. Now I ain't talking about the ones in Cleveland. I'm talking about the ones who live in them goddamn ones who missing teeth, sucking them goddamn crystal meth rocks. You really looked at this man who ain't never been hungry a day in his damn life and thought he could relate to you? Thought he understood y'all struggle? That big, beautiful bill shit passing should have been a wake-up call for all of y'all. But we can read some more comments, man. Shout out to Sean who said, Newsom didn't make California better. To be honest, California was better off with a governor as a Republican or even a third party. The problem with California, bro, California swung too far left. California swung way too far extreme left, which is understandable because there was a time where it swung too far right. And some of y'all don't know that story. Some of y'all don't know the story about how back in the day, how racist California used to be. California used to be a motherfucker now. This was the state that had eugenics back in the day. Real shit. You had eugenics back in California. A lot of people don't know about that. Back the way would neuter you. Yeah, we can talk about that too. Shout out to my man Ava who said, I agree. I fly the flag for the people, and that's what it means to me. The government has very little to do with what the country has come to be if it weren't for all of us over hundreds of years. And that's the bigger issue I have with Trump, that I have with Biden. I have such a lack of fucking faith in my government. I feel like they're all corrupt. I feel like they're all in bed with one another. I feel like they all just use us to fight their battles. I hate government. I hate government. I don't vote liberal, I vote libertarian. I vote libertarian, which is third party, because I do believe that a country with just minimal government involvement in our affairs, I feel like that's a lot better. You're using our tax dollars to fund wars that we don't agree with. You've historically sent our nieces, nephews, sons, daughters, uncles, and fathers to fight in wars, do genocide, and conflicts that we usually end up being the bad guys in when we look in retrospect. This Israel and Palestine shit, this is not the only genocide taking place. This is not the only genocide that's taking place. But this is one of the few that our tax dollars are funding, which you have the actual leader of the leader of the country coming and kicking with Trump, talking about some, yeah, and whoopty whoop whoop, and yeah, we're gonna, like, it looks bad. It looks away. I can only kill Trump so much on that because all of our presidents did it. Obama allowed genocide in Yemen. Obama, when you go to West Africa, one of the main reasons when you go to West Africa and you see all these radical Islamist terrorist groups, all these jihadist groups that are wreaking havoc in Burkina Faso, in Mali, they are there because of Obama. Not solely because of Obama, but he had a lot of influence in this current edition because of what he did to the Libyan government. So it's very I have a very negative view on government. I do. I think, one of my supervisors last week, we were talking about it, and she said that she used to believe in government. She said she's 50 something years old and she just now realized how corrupt the government is. She just now is understanding that they don't have our best interests at heart, and et cetera, et cetera. I was like, where the fuck you been? because they've been like this my entire life. Um, for me personally, I look at it like you can't. There's so much bloodshed that takes place in our country. There's so much bloodshed that take so much shit that there's so much shit that takes place in other places. Oh man, I'm about to rant over again. Shout out to Sean who commented and said, yeah, California was racist back in the day. Plus, out here, when we follow a color lane, we go extreme with it. What do you mean we still follow colors? I think I get what you're saying. We do. You know, I've done multiple videos talking about the history of Japantown, the internment of Japanese immigrants here in World War II. And we locked them up in internment camps. I've talked about that. I note that they didn't lock up that many German immigrants here too, but we can talk about that. I mean, we can skip that. I've talked about that before. I've talked about the Filipino riots in Watsonville, California, where essentially white men were just going through the streets beating up Filipino Americans, and California's way of resolving that was banning marriage in between Asians and whites. That was their way to resolve that issue. This is hilarious, right? The problem with humans in general is sometimes we swing too far left, sometimes we swing too far right. And I do think a happy medium is what we need. A happy medium is what we need. I do think a lot of what we're dealing with now, I don't know, man. It's scary, right? I worry about the future of our country. I do. I worry about where the cost of living is going to go. I worry about this younger generation is going to come up under me. The kids who are in high school now, the kids who are in middle school, the ones who are in elementary school. I wonder how hard it's going to be for them to survive. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm going to switch topics for a minute because I want to describe. We're going to talk about the Sydney Sweeney thing. I want to talk about this, by the way, because I do want to talk about this. So some of y'all know this story. I wanted to just get this out the way. This damn ad that y'all keep acting like black people really give a fuck about this. I want this to stop. Don't nobody give a fuck about this damn ad but fat people with miscolored hair. I want y'all to stop acting like this is the talking point amongst black barbershops. For those who do not know, this woman, Sydney Sweeney, she's one of the stars of Euphoria. Shout out to her. To me, I took this whole ad as a sign that we're never getting another season of Euphoria, and I don't give a damn no damn more. They got so much backlash about this, saying because she's talking about good genes, how she got good genes. Are you saying blonde hair, blue eyes, that's a good thing? Who gives a fuck? Hey, listen. It's nothing wrong with you being white and saying that blonde hair and blue eyes is the most beautiful thing in the world. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Ain't nothing wrong with saying that. I tell y'all all the time, I think high cheekbones and a certain shade of dark skin, I think that's the best thing in the fucking world. And I can say that. There's nothing wrong, and I think they're doubling down on this. There's nothing wrong with saying that the physical attributes of your race, the most ideal physical attributes of your race, are a sign of good genes. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why is that even an issue. Now, what I found was interesting was when people found this other photo, and I want to say this photo of Beyonce is like from years ago. This isn't even a recent ad, and they were comparing that, and they were saying, let me put both up there. They were saying when Beyonce did this, and it was kind of channeling Marilyn Monroe a little bit with the hairstyle and the jeans. Why wasn't that seen as cultural appropriation? This is why I don't like having these conversations when we start saying everything that white people do is an issue, because to me, when I look at this photo of Beyonce, I didn't look at it as cultural appropriation, but I did look at it as trying too hard. So, it kind of goes both ways. I hate when we just start making a big deal out of just the most random, stupidest shit. Like, who gives a damn? What I found interesting about that situation was the fact that I see far more people on the right talking about how upset people on the left are about it than I see people on the left talking about it. I really don't see, and I don't watch CNN like that, so I'm biased. I don't see a lot of Democrats up in arms about this damn man. I really don't. What I will say is I see a lot of black dudes who are kind of confused because we will forever be confused of what white men define as you have an ass versus what we define as having ass. I don't think she's not really, I don't know, hey man. But it's what it is. She got paid, she got to make her money, and it's good, man, What I would tell Sydney Sweeney, and I know she's not gonna watch my black ass. I would tell her, be careful with letting these Republican news people, these Republican news media companies try to co-opt you into their arguments, if that makes sense. I'm seeing that a lot with a lot of people. That happens with my platform a lot, where I have a very strong view against crime. I have a very strong view against that. And I've seen people take my videos, take my commentary, and try to use that along with their commentary that comes off, let me just be what it is. I've seen racists take my videos, take my commentary, and try to use it to push their narratives. That made me look at my content a lot differently, because I had to understand when I talk about certain topics, I'm not just talking. When I'm having a conversation, say for example, about accountability in the black community, when I'm having a conversation about how we have to do better on crime, we have to do better holding ourselves accountable, I'm now learning now that, hey, I'm not just talking to us, I'm talking to everybody. And when people agree with me sometimes and take my videos and take my content and say, this is an example why there should be segregated, like, y'all be shocked at some of the shit they be saying when they be taking my videos. They be, hold on, is that a damn gnat? The damn gnat was the star in the video. But yeah. Shout out to all y'all for listening to me. I'm tired. I gotta get some food. I gotta go to the gym again. Shout out to all y'all who listen. Shout out to all y'all that left me comments. Shout out to Sean. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to my boy Ian. Shout out to all y'all. I'll be back here tomorrow at the same time, about 7 tomorrow. We're gonna be broadcast live. We're gonna try to do a broadcast once every day. Shout out